Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? I don't know what you're looking at. I can't see anything.
I'm gonna let it play one more time. I like this thing. Sweet Pea did an excellent job. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And we got Lou on standby.
Awesome, awesome.
What's going on? What's going on, people? We are in the place to be. The community beacon. We got the brother Elder Joel Simmons on his way to location.
Made it in here though, man. Thanks to Sweet Pea.
Oh yeah,
helped me out over here.
She hooked it up.
Yeah, I don't know what she did, but once she put her hands on it, all of a sudden I started to hear you and see you.
Oh yeah, good to have those young ones around. They're like technologically inclined and advanced, and we have a lot to learn from them.
So true.
We have a lot to learn from them. I got Lou he's in the green room right now. I got Lou in the green room. And this conversation that we're gonna have, I think it might behoove us to bring him in shortly, because obviously he has a lot of experience with this topic, raising two young boys what I consider successfully. One entering law school, I think he's, and one who's already finished up law school. And so he definitely was a father in the household. So I'll definitely bring him up shortly. But I wanted to introduce us first because I'm excited about this, man. I'm excited about this new venture. I know I said we just gonna get right into the show. But I think it also it would do a disservice if we didn't explain just for a little bit. I don't know how long you have until you get to your location, but a little bit about how we decided that this is something that we wanted to do, and some of the reasons of why we wanted to do it.
Right. I'm about 15 minutes. 15 minutes there.
Okay. So I mean, I guess we're on my Facebook. We're on my both business and personal. I want to say I'm on YouTube as well. And something happened with the LinkedIn. I'm not exactly sure. But we can always share it to the LinkedIn a little bit later on after we finish it. After we finish this up. So a lot of people know me because obviously it's on my platform, all of my platforms. But when we do upload it to obviously your platform, your YouTube, your LinkedIn, etc., I'm Michael Seville. I'm a real estate consultant, and an entrepreneur. So I really focus on real estate, but being as real estate is associated with a lot of other things, which is family and lifestyle, and also in business, because I do commercial real estate as well. I get to see a lot of things, and I'm involved in a lot of things. I've always been involved in a lot of things, but my focus is mainly real estate. But we decided, and I had a talk with Joel, and I know Joel will get into his background shortly. But we were discussing. Me and him have a lot of deep, high level conversations. It almost sounds like an oxymoron to be deep and high and a high level at the same time. But it just shows that we kind of leave the atmosphere, but we delve deep into it.
Right.
And you know, after several talks, and I'm always telling people like, man, Joel's a blessing. He's definitely a blessing in my life. I think it's important that, you know, our light, which is, you know, that essentially the beacon, be shared with the community. And so I get that we get to glean off each other. And so I think it behooves us, now that we have the platforms to do it, and we don't necessarily, you know, we don't necessarily have to meet at a certain venue. And in this time that we're in, which I've heard the term, so I didn't coin it, but I definitely believe it to be true. They call it the Great Reset. Everything that's happened up until now is like a great reset of what we've already been happening. So to be involved, to reach out to Joe, and him also be aligned and confirm and confer with the ideal that we get together and have these high level conversations outside of just he and I. And we can build on it, and we actually invite everyone else to build on it. Like I said, we have Lou Moroto, one of our brothers, in the green room, and we'll bring him in shortly because he definitely adds to the conversation. So that was my kind of, you know, explaining to Joel's audience of who I am, and definitely want to be a resource and an asset to anybody who's watching this video. And I give Joel the time now so he can explain a little bit about who he is to my audience.
Awesome. I like that, Mike. Mike, man. You know, I guess it's probably good for the people to know also that, you know, we've been together for about over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, I know we were on Lou's show, What's Next, and he had like a 10-year reunion of the brothers. It was 4 brothers that came together, 4 points of a star, and we all came together, and it was just it was something else. And we've been good friends, great friends, even best friends ever since then. You know, so this is family. Um, but to the audience of yours, Mike, you know, I'm Joel Simmons, father of 3. I also helped raise a godchild. So, you know, he's gone back on with his family, because for a time, you know, during our spin, I was always a father of 4. But he's back with his family now, and you know, every time I see him, he looks like he's doing well. So that's that. We're grateful for that. But you know, I got 3 of my own. A 10-year-old, just turned 16, and I have a 22. And you know, married, been married for 20, 22, 23 years now. You know, 23 years. I'm a fireman, lieutenant, paramedic, ride the box. Yeah. Uh, Dedicated owner of Saving Lives. I've been running Saving Lives for 15 years now, you know. Um, and I got instructors, and, you know, I'm mobile. I go all over the place. So, you know, Saving Lives, some of them might be more familiar with that. You know, they see that type of stuff on YouTube or LinkedIn. You know, I even got a Facebook and an Instagram, but I don't really follow those too much. Um, I'm also, you know, I claim the name as most awesome dad, you know. Yeah, I claim that name, you know, and every day I work to fulfill that, you know. But I really enjoy being a father. It's a powerful thing to me. And you know, if you look on my LinkedIn, that's the first title that I put up, because I feel like that's the most important title. So all the rest of them come afterwards, but most awesome dad is first, and then great husband is second. Um, I'm also a motivational keynote speaker and a life coach, inspirational life coach, and this is my passion right here. What we're doing right now, I'm passionate about this. You know, I love this. You know, I love helping people. I love getting out there. I love solving problems. You know, when people have situations and troubles inside of their life, I love being an addition, a help to them. I've always said I won't hurt anybody, but when I can help, I will help. And that's kind of where we are as far as titles and description of job details.
Well, yeah, I think I forgot to mention the two little boys I have. So you're the most awesome dad. I'll be the most illustrious dad. And when Lou gets here, we got to give Lou most something, Dad, as well. So we'll figure out what.
You're touching on something. Mr. Most Illustrious. You're touching on something.
Well, yeah, I got a 2. I feel like the Lord got 2 or 3 more from it, so we'll see. I got hopefully He gives me enough time on this earth. But I got 2. I got an 11-year-old, and I got a bouncing baby, another bouncing baby boy, and Paul, and he's definitely a light and a joy in my life. And Elijah is he's a something in my life. Nah, he's an excellent kid, man. I sat there and I watched him get on the bus. When was it? Yesterday. I think it was yesterday morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this time just flies by. Like, before you know it, they're becoming their own. And I had the awesome, what word would I say? I was able to see Jonah yesterday, and I was excited to see him. He's almost as tall as me.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty tall guy. So, and what is he in the 5th grade? And if you all got a chance to see it, which I'm going to play it again because I love it. The more I listen to it, the more I like it. Was the intro that was created by Sienna.
Yeah, Sweet Pea.
Yeah. So I definitely want to. I'm going to play that again. So I got a chance, and so the intro was created by Sienna, affectionately known as Sweet Pea. And then the pictures were actually taken by Jonah. And so if you look at some of those pictures that we took, and I'm going to use some of those pictures for some of my content, I was like, oh man, we got some good ones. We went out yesterday and we had a brief but a good time.
Hey, hold on one. Stop the press just for one moment. I don't want you to lose your thought. So think about it, take a picture of it, record it, whatever you need to do. How come I see the banner then come up and it says Mike Seville, most illustrious dad, but there ain't no Joel Simmons, most awesome dad? Brother, you left me out.
What are you talking about?
Look at you. Look at you.
While you were talking, I had the most awesome dad up, and then I started speaking, and that's when I wrote the most. Come on, brother. Look
at you, man. Look at you. You never cease to amaze me. Never cease.
We're working over here. Listen, one of the things that we took, a quote that we're taking and we're flying with it. I guess I would attribute it to Kevin Samuels because I know I heard him say it, but I've heard it's been said before, is that we are building it as we fly. So, we just want to continue to get better and better as we go along. Next time Joe will be in location and we'll be able to, and we'll get it going. But, this is, like I said, people, we're building it as we fly. So you'll see some more things coming up with these tickers, etc. And so, I do want to wait a little bit longer. We got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, man, you know it, man. You on point. You must got a time ticker over there.
It's biological, the biological ticker. The biological ticker. But while we wait on Joe, let me add Lou to the stream, and I wish I had like an applause button.
Lou does. Ask him to hit his own applause button.
Lou does have an applause. Lou has you got the grainy screen today. Lou, what are you on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your screen is you don't look as clear as I am.
Hold on for a minute. Let me.
I look really good. You might need to wipe the camera lens. Sometimes that'll do it.
I just did. I don't know what's.
Oh.
It's still real rainy. It looks good on my side.
It looks better now. It looks better now. A lot better. Okay, there it is. It just took a little bit of time. Lou, what's going on, man?
What's up, brothers? Good. Listen, I just came on just because I wanted to hear you guys, what you guys had to say.
Right.
You know, I wasn't really planning on joining. I was going to listen to you guys. But first and foremost, let me say, your the screen, the graphics, your introduction, man, that's like you said, you're getting better and better as the day goes by, man. It's looking really, really nice.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. But I mean, this show that we're doing today, I thought it was interesting because, and you also checked in was because you have two young men.
Correct.
I think Brian is he in his first year of law school or he's entering law school?
He just finished his first week of law school.
Okay, so he's so it's not again. And then you have Louis, who's finished law school and is actually already practicing, or is he interning? What is he doing now?
Yeah, no, Louis finished his 3-year commitment with the Broward Public Defender.
3 years, so he's already 3 years in.
Yeah, and he just got hired with one of the firms downtown, Keller and Caracuzo. So he's working.
I know those guys.
So okay. I don't know if that was a plug or what, but
it was a plug. Listen, Keller and Caracuzo. I go back with Keller and Caracuzo before when it was just Keller and Keller. Caracuzo is I guess is the newer partner as far as newer goes because he or she, I don't know, it's a guy.
Yeah, it's a guy. It's a guy.
Because his wife is the judge, correct? Or she was the judge.
No, she's still a judge. Yep, still a judge. Yeah.
So I go back. Dang, I know too much about the whole lawyer thing. I go back with them years, probably before 2000, so like 98, 99 or something like that. It's been Scott Keller is definitely, has been involved with my family for a long time. So it's interesting how the world grows and the circle goes. And now Louis, your wife Betsy works with them at one point, I believe.
Yeah, now, she's a paralegal for them.
Right, and now Louis is working with them. So it's full circle. It's crazy. So shouts out to them. I don't know if people know. I was with Lou when they stole his Cadillac. When Louis took the Cadillac, I'm bringing it up. When Louis took the Cadillac to prom.
Oh my God!
We both had a Cadillac. I still have mine. Thank God. I think Mark had my Cadillac too. Mark had my truck because they both graduated at the same time. So Mark is my little brother. So Mark had my Cadillac truck and took it to prom. Louis had your Cadillac truck and took it to his prom.
Yeah, they took it.
And I was there when you got the call when I guess he left it in the Gardens Mall parking lot. And someone took it, and that was that. Never seen that truck again.
Somebody's riding around with it.
And in some South American country.
Yeah, some land country somewhere.
That thing went straight onto a container and right overseas. But and these things happen. That's interesting especially when you're dealing with kids. Like you always get like these certain phone calls, and thank God that they're all okay. Because better the truck than anything else happening on that, prom night. Thank God. So Joel and I were coming up with this topic, and this is the first topic of his first show. I think it's Ty's in. Ty said probably in. I wish I could see. Let me see if I can see Ty's comment. I can't. So Ty says probably in Miami with different numbers. Yeah, it might be in Miami with different numbers. So there's Joe, but Joe has on the I don't know what kind of shirt that is. It's like is it doing it to you too, Lou?
It's got like some sparkly colors too. I don't know.
Joe came in with the graphic.
He got the Rico Suave shirt
Yeah,
on.
Joe has
I was ready, man. It just some things just started, backing up a little bit. So
is that a pinstripe shirt?
Yeah.
Right. Man. What I'm saying is what it's doing with the camera. Oh man, Joe, you don't wear that pinstripe shirt again.
Like this to get a new one. I mean,
do you see what it's doing, or you can't tell?
No, I can't tell, man. There's so much.
It's okay. So what the camera? Ty said it's a graffiti zebra shirt. But
you know what it looks like? It looks like it's when you take a picture of a computer and you get that graphic look.
Yeah, the graphic is doing something. I don't know. So Joe checked out. Let me see if I can bring.
He went to go change.
I'm in here.
Okay, so this is better. Okay, cool. You were like Ty said, you was doing a zebra type. The zebra type situation going on.
Yeah. Am I back? Am I good?
You are good. Charlie Brown says, "What's up, Lulu?"
What's going on, Charlie Brown?
Charlie Brown is in the house.
Charlie Brown, man. What?
We about to have a full reunion on.
Charlie Brown in the house too. I love my man Lou. I saw what you put out there on TikTok with that whole new setup that you got going on in your room, man. I'm just starting to get into TikTok. I don't know nothing about it, but I saw you, man. I'm learning. Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah,
that's just another social media outlet, you know.
Okay.
I'm just getting hip to it, man. I'm learning as I go. I don't know nothing about followers and following.
It's time, and one of the things that I spoke to Joel about this earlier, and then especially for us males that are coming up, like to be able to share some of our information. So it behooves us to learn a lot of these different channels because a lot of us have a lot of experience, and now we have these platforms in which we can kind of share these experiences with, a lot of younger people. And I think a lot of younger people can get this information, and we're giving this information freely, on this platform, and they can take it and they can, do what they want with it. Hopefully they'll use it and avoid some of the, I wouldn't even call them mistakes. They don't necessarily have to go through some of the experiences that we've gone through and learned from, and they can have a quicker curve as to having a more, a success, what I would deem a successful life. So shouts out to you all. Shouts out to everybody. Let's really get into this topic because the title of the stream was Fatherhood versus Daddyhood. What'd you say?
No, I said that's a good topic.
I thought you pulled a Kevin Hart.
No.
Hey, you gotta release this banner to me. I want to start putting some stuff inside the banner too, man. I got some stuff. I need to put something up there for Lou. He needs to be the most something dad too.
I had Lou on there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Show some love.
Let me tell you, Mike is we done created a beast out of Mike, man. Yeah, Mike is on point.
I like it.
I see the mic hanging over the top there with the
mic with Mike.
The spit cover.
I'm gonna need it too.
You about to get in, huh?
Listen, so I want to talk about this daddyhood versus, and I want us to talk about this daddyhood versus fatherhood. And let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. I wanted to speak on it just in regards to. I think there's a difference, right? I think there's a huge difference in the fathers being in the lives, and I'm going to get into that as well because that's huge as well. But a lot of these things need to be talked about. One of the things that I'm listening to, and there's a guy named Coach EO who speaks about it. It says it starts and ends with the man. It starts and ends with the man. So regardless of what is going on, the results that we're seeing in society, at the end of the day, it starts and ends with the man. There's nothing else to blame. We tend to be, just by nature, are the more logical, the more Adam was the first one. You know what I mean? So it starts and
analytical.
Right.
A lot of times it's just that it's analytical. But the thing about it is, when it comes down to it, many women are going to end up being more emotional based. It doesn't mean that a man can't be emotional based. Listen, I was brought up by a woman. My mother brought me up. It was that after 3 years, it was no more father and mom. It was just mom. And then I didn't have brothers like I got brothers now. I didn't have brothers back then. So it was my grandmother, and I had like 2 aunties. And my uncle, he was like, he was gone, man, because he was doing his own thing. I mean, when I came up, he was still in his 20s, and he was just breaking out, being a model, going up there to New York and all this other stuff. He was the coolest man you could ever meet. It was like I came up in Virginia, and I was like, hey, we'll go see Uncle Butch. Oh man, I can't wait to see Uncle Butch. This is the coolest brother I have ever met in my entire life. I mean, everything he got is like, suede and, I mean, it was just the thing that was in that nobody could afford in the hood where I grew up. He had it, he had them shoes on, he had the gaiters on and stuff like that. And, that was like the man. That's all I knew of a man. And I couldn't see him too often. So, there's a part of me that is extremely compassionate type of individual. And I give all props to my mom for trying to raise a little knucklehead, back in the 70s, 80s.
Right. Lou, what was your upbringing like?
Bro, I'll tell you, I was really blessed. My dad was the disciplinary one in the household.
Right.
And it's not always the man, because it's like, Joe, you say you grew up with just a mom figure, right? So the mom sometimes has to pull double duty, but I was blessed to have both parents there. But let me tell you, my dad had the fear of God in. He put the fear of God in me. So, he kept me from doing a lot of things that other friends of mine were doing. You know what I'm saying? So he kept me really out from being in the streets when really I could have been there. So, my dad set me straight, and he put those good work ethics in me, and literally started to teach me how to become a man, like any father would do. So, that's my upbringing, no matter what issues my pops may have had, but he was always there and provided for my family, through good times and bad times. We never missed a meal though.
Right. I agree. I think so for me personally, my father was in and out. So, but for the most part of it, he was out. We moved from Jersey to Florida. When we moved to Florida, I was 6, 7 years old, and he stayed in Jersey, and he would visit on his occasions. So I was really raised by my mother, primarily. Had some uncles, had aunts, etc. But for the most part, raised by my mother, who definitely pulled double duty. And she was, my mother was a little different from most women because she veered, and I don't know whether she did this because of she was raising us on her own for the most part, but she veered more towards at least with me anyway, she was very, very, she was a disciplinarian. And she didn't move. There wasn't that like I didn't see my mother cry until I was an adult. You know what I mean? Like my mother didn't cry until I was an adult. She portrayed herself as that. So but definitely didn't have that father figure in the house. Had to figure out a lot of that stuff on my own. I think that's how I developed the kind of attitude that I have now, because now I'm like hot or cold. I don't. If you know me, I'm just like I'm either this way or I'm that way. But I tend to be very disciplined. A lot of people kind of say, "Have you been in the military?" Nope, didn't do. Haven't done a day. But haven't done a day like Lou has. Hey, thank you for your service, Lou, as well. But what was brought up because of her being such a and her being such a strong woman, because she had to. But here's what I say about that as well, because I always my thought process on women raising men is that they can do it, obviously, because they have to do it. But I also say Denzel played a heck of a Malcolm X, but he was not Malcolm X. You know what I mean? So that's what's going on, how I see it going on in today's society. These women can do a pretty good job. I think we kind of and forgive me, women, I love you all. But a lot of the results are in regards to the stats that we have now, in regards to the people who end up in prison, the people who end up on the wrong side of the law, not just prison, but on the wrong side of the law. And the majority of these people are being raised in single parent households. And since single parent households tend to be 90% women, especially within our community, I want to say it's like 80-something% of the people who are in jail come from a single parent household. So the majority is going to be the woman. And a lot of these things, and I'm not blaming the women on themselves, because you got to do what you got to do. But there definitely has been with the ways that the laws have changed, also with a lot of different movements, taking the male out of the house. And since it starts with the man and ends with the man, we have to, I feel like we have to take responsibility, because even though it's hard, I think being a man is hard. And I think that's kind of what gives us our that's how you find out, essentially.
There's no book.
There's no book, and so we're building on what we have. So that's why I'm so adamant about being in my children's lives, even though I'm not with their mothers. It's like I want to be with my children, because I know the positive effects of having the men in life, even more positive effect of having the man actually living in the household. Because from my perspective, it's definitely tough to have a child for a week and then having a child for the next week, because now what we're having to do is that we're having to it's just a change of environment. There's different rules here and there's different rules here, and a child go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. Before you move too far beyond that, I just wanted to point out something, because you're talking about having a father in the household. There's a huge thing that there's a very large difference that happens with having any individual, and I can say it this way. There's an old saying that says birds of a feather flock together, So, I mean, just like all of us, the three of us, we're here together, we generally have a like mindset, you know what I mean? And people of the same mindset generally are together. Those that desire to have that type of mindset will eventually flock towards those individuals that have that type of open mindset, which is the reason why we're teaching it, the reason why I teach a growth mindset, open mindset, accepting mindset. But the thing about it is, when it comes down to children glean. That's what they do.
Yep.
We teach all day long, but children glean. So, I mean, as far as it goes, I don't know how deep we're going to get into fatherhood versus daddyhood, but the thing is, like, when you're being a dad, you got to understand that your children are watching the way you walk, watching the way you talk. They are looking at how you handle business. When I'm outside talking to the neighbor across the street, they're watching me and standing the way that I stand. And this is a good thing. I mean, this is your opportunity to help groom this individual. And there's a whole lot more that is gained through the eyes and the ears than it is just through somebody teaching or hovering over someone else.
And to that point, because I had I had asked Elijah a question in regards to, I think it was actually Beethoven came up with this question. He's like, ask these kids this, and I was like, so what do you think when you see a black man? Give me like the 3 characteristics of what you think it is, and he named 3 of those things, and they weren't necessarily positive, right? And so I said, well, I'm black, and your uncle Beethoven is black, so what do you think? He was like, he said, but it's just like the way that you walk into the room, you walk like you own everything. I said, so this is his concept of what it looks like coming from my perspective. But I think when I walk in the room, I walk in like a man with my head up, my back, my chest out, my shoulders back, that kind of thing, because that's just, I feel like this is how it is. And so now when I go around and I look at some of these men that these young men who didn't necessarily have a man in their life, you start to see them hunched over. Because something as basic as it's something that most people don't like. We're not thinking about that in school. Like, listen, when you walk with your chest out, with your back, because it's a form of confidence. But you see them walking hunched over, and it's a telling sign. These are like little things that, to Joel's point, that they would glean from watching his father walk into the room as such. They would glean from, Lou walking into the room as such, or me walking into the room as such, and identifying it, especially with a positive to a positive person, because we are, we're all law-abiding, hardworking, positive people. We live a positive lifestyle. So if you don't necessarily see that, but then if what you see is it on TV this is how, whatever narrative they're pushing at the time they decide to push it, then you could easily take that as a young child, like Elijah saying, well, my father looks like he walks like, I don't know, I don't even want to name somebody like this person, but in the movie, this person is not necessarily a positive character. Right. You know what I mean? So it's to the point of, just those little things, like I said, to Joel's point, because it is what they glean. Like, okay, so I'm supposed to walk with my with my shoulders back, or and my chest out, that type of thing, with my head up when I walk into a room, as opposed to walking hunched over as a man. I think it's very important.
Real quick, I used to always tell my kids, you walk from point A to point B with your head up, like you own the room. It doesn't mean that you're cocky. It means you're confident.
Yes.
And I said, because unfortunately, this world is a nasty world. It can be nasty, right? And it's prey and predators, right? So you gotta be one of those. And if you're not cocky, if you're not confident about yourself, someone may take advantage of that situation at that moment. So I always tell my kids, man, walk with your head up from point A to point B, and when you go in that room, it's like you own it, but you're confident. You're not being cocky. But if you say I'm conceited, I almost give you that Jada Kiss line.
see, that's what I'm talking about, and I'm glad that Lou's on this with us, because like I said, I was brought up by my mother, and like old school days, I wouldn't be able to say what I wanted to share right now. But after, my reading and study, something come up to my mind while you all are talking. Boaz. Now, I know y'all know about Boaz, but I ain't going to go and I'm going to go a different way. When Boaz was moving through, if y'all don't know about Boaz out there and wherever you are listening to this, it's in the book, it's in the Bible, it's in the book of Ruth, all right? But Boaz was this kingly type of man, kind of like what Lou was just pointing out. It's this man who just, he knew what he was, and he did what he did, and everybody in the town, in the neighborhood, had respect for Boaz because he was an honorable man. He wasn't cocky at all, but he was definitely the man, and people respected him as the man. And so when he walked around, he did certain things. Now, there came a point in time when Ruth was seeing if there would be somebody that she was able to marry. And this was my point, is that Boaz enforced this over all of his fields that he owned. He would send the men out there. They would gather the crops. They would separate the wheat from the tare. They would gather it all together, and they would take all the crops, and they would put it in the barn, and they would prepare it. But he always told them, he said, but leave the gleanings for the women. And so my point is that gleanings have always been left for women, according to old history. Y'all don't look at me out there in this in this live stream world and think, oh, he's sexist. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the history of this country, the history of this world, you know, and we are now walking into an era where women are able to go and leave gleanings for somebody else, you know. But the way it was from a long time ago is women were left to gleanings. They didn't go out to work. They took care of the children, and the children helped with the gleanings. Well, that's just the way it worked. So when people have that type of mindset inside of them from years and years and years and years, then it begins to rub off on children after children, you know? So the type of mindset that Lou is talking about right there, my mother wasn't able to give me that mindset. Now, she was a strong woman, and she went out there and worked 2 or 3 jobs to get me out of the ghetto, but she wasn't able to give me that type of mindset. I had to get that for myself. I got it from the street. If I don't hold my head up, these jokers on the corner are going to put something in my head, and then it will never be held up again. So that's how I learned to walk in the room like that. I walked in the room like that because I know that if I don't show that I am a man, that somebody's going to try to take my manhood from me. And I'm just not having that. I saw too much stuff as a youth. I couldn't have it. So I think therein we have like this difference, you know, because everybody didn't grow up like I did. And most people now would never thought that I grew up the way I'm explaining it, because I'm just different. But I like the way that Lou said that. And now that's what I do with my boy, you know. Hey, you know, keep your head up, man. This ain't the time to cry. I'll tell you when it's time for you to cry. This ain't it. So get it together, man. Not that I need him to hold back tears and be, you know, it's just that you can't become an emotional junkie because they're going to eat you up alive, man. And I need you to be strong, you know. God forbid something happened to me, and you got to go out there and you got to put in the work to make things happen.
1,000%. 1,000%. This world, and it's interesting because, and I hope we get some women listening to it, is that a lot of these things that have been occurring that there's an uproar about has always happened. You know what I mean? When I'm talking about the teasing in school, the bullying in school, the going to work, like we go out every day and could get out, you know, we're getting our behind kicked out every, you know, this world is not an easy place to be. And we've learned just from being men how to navigate these things. Like Joe said, when he was out there, you had to keep your head up. You had to take your licks, and you had to keep on moving with your licks. And as a man, there's always also, here's the next thing, there's always a subtle threat of violence. Like it's always present. So you always got to say, how far am I willing to take it? And every word that comes out of your mouth when you're in this arena, when you're outside, so to speak, when you're out there, you have to say, well, if I'm going to take it this far, I got to stand on it. Because if I don't stand on it, then I'm going to lose my respect as such. You know what I mean? And a lot of these things have become second nature. And I realized this. I'm gonna tell you what I realized this when I was young. I was dating a young lady. I probably was like in my 20s, and we're walking through the mall. And so we're walking through the mall, and you know, I looked over and like she's just in her own world. Like everything is just, you know, in my mind, I'm literally like, it's peaches and cream. So it's just like Pollyanna, you know what I mean? It's just like la-di-da-di-da. And I'm in the mall, and my eyes is going this way. I'm sizing everybody up. I'm looking at hips to see who got it. Like I'm going looking at when and then you get taught when you go into a restaurant, keep your back. You know, don't put your back to the door. Watch, because you want to watch and survey everything that's going on. So it's just like these things are just they've essentially become second nature to where these things are just happening. And as a man, we become aware of it. This is like nature. This is nature. Like we're so used to a lot of this first world living that we don't. Some of us, anyways, that we're kind of looking. Oh, this is not right. No, this is just the way it is. And to Lou's point, you can either be prey or you can be a predator. You know what I mean? And you don't want to end up being that prey. You understand what I mean? Because people will take advantage.
I don't know. I mean, I like that whole philosophy. I mean, I should say I understand that whole philosophy, but at this point in time, I don't think that way anymore, because I'm not prey, but I'm also not a predator. I'm not out there to try to ruin anything, and I'm not out there, and neither is Lou. I mean, Lou, neither is Lou. And I think that while I was growing up, that is exactly what I felt like. I was either one or the other, and I think that, and I like that you brought that back up to the front, Mike, because that kind of gives us an opportunity to kind of break this, crack this egg wide open about fatherhood versus daddyhood, because that's what we're getting at right now. Those y'all out there in the StreamYard world or wherever you are, you got three men right here who are not out there to destroy anybody. That's not what we're made for. And we're not out to be taken advantage of neither. And each one of us, if you were to see all three of us together, we hang out tight as a fist, But the thing is that we all got different ways of doing things. We don't walk the same, We all got different things, different ways of doing things. So it's not like we're exactly the same. We're not carbon copies. We're not robots and anything like that. We all got our own mindset, and there's people out there that may be watching this right now feeling like they are prey, or they have to be the alpha male inside the room. I ain't got to be no alpha male. You want to be the alpha male? Go ahead and be the alpha male, because there's another room right next door. I ain't got to be in the same room with nobody. I'm too old for that mess. You know what I mean? I can make my own. Look at this. I got my own room right here, and ain't nobody bothering me here.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit on that. I'm not totally aligned on it, because especially in business. Okay. Especially in business, and the saying in business is either you're being sold, you're the one being sold, or you're being the selling. So when we say predator, when I hear predator or prey, so I think it's more so of the context of how it's taken, as opposed to not necessarily being that, because I can hear, if we're talking about the street predator and prey, then we're like, okay, this really negative connotation is about to happen. Okay. But in business, I would prefer everyone to do a win-win. I would prefer it to be a win-win-win on all sides of the board.
And you've said that to me before. Right. The first time that you said
1000%. But you do not want to be at the bottom of that food chain in business, and because you will be taken advantage of. So maybe the way that we're the words, and we can figure out a different way of how to communicate it. But you do want to be wary of, because I feel, and I was told I did an assessment, a personality assessment, and the personality assessment, the guy likened me. He said, Mike, you're kind of like a shark, because when you he said you're, and then there's different people like birds, and he said, but you're like a shark, like you're zoning in on what you're zoning in on what it is that you want. And you go after it.
Like a shark.
Right, like a shark, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Which the sharks tend to be the apex predator in the ocean. You know what I mean? Just like the lions of the jungle, that type of deal. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to be taken advantage of, but you don't want to be you don't want to prey, you don't want to give people the raw end of the deal. So maybe it's predators with integrity. Can we say
you said,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you said it good right there, man.
PWI. Heard it right here.
but we, because we're men with integrity. I definitely believe that, and I do want everyone to win, because when everybody wins, we all win. You know what I mean? But you can't spend too much. I don't think you can spend too much time attempting to, quote unquote, help the prey, because the prey is there for a reason. Charles said I'm trolling.
Who's trolling?
Charles Brown said I'm trolling. I wish we could see his comments, because he's cracking me up over here on Facebook. Go ahead.
Hey, real quick, today is our brother's birthday, isn't it?
Yeah, he turned 50.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to shout him out like that.
Let me see. Let me put that in the ticker. That's a ticker. Yeah.
There you go, Lou. I see you, man.
5-0.
5-0, brother, man. Yeah.
He young.
Go ahead and get B up there, man. Yeah, I like that, Lou. Yeah, put him on front screen. There we go.
50.
Front screen.
Where's he at? I figured he'd be on here today.
B, man, that man stay moving. Wow.
He can't.
Hey, what's that called? Digital box, right?
Live digital.
Y'all check out Live Digital Box. Yeah, that's
his spot. Yeah.
Get with them. Live Digital Box. When you put him up there, man, put that on the ticker too. Give him a little shout out. Y'all do some business with him. He sets up little rooms and stuff like that. He does some really detailed work. I went by there one day and did a little podcast with my daughter, Sweet Pea. And man, that man has got so much knowledge. He could write books. He needs to just write a book. Write the book.
I think he's writing his book right now. I think he's putting the finishing touches on it. So
good.
Excited to see that happen for him.
Yeah, always.
Excited to see that happen. So I think so. We're getting back to I guess we're kind of talking about grooming young men to our boys essentially, and Lou has young men at this point to become the men that they are, or to become the men that they will be. Excuse me, and are in Lou's case, but they're continuing to grow. Because what is Louis? Louis is what, 28, 29?
Yeah, he's 28 and Brian's 23.
Yeah, and I knew nothing.
But it doesn't matter when you're a good father, though, man. I believe that fatherhood goes on until the day they die.
Right?
I mean, it's
or we die, God.
Whenever the father is gone, and the lack of it as well can possibly go on until the day that they die.
Until you change it, yeah.
Right. Unless the change comes, And
you know what, guys? For years, I used to tell my kids, I used to say, listen, because I was a disciplinary one, like I said before. Mom was the loving nurturer. Dad's just trying to teach you right. But I used to always tell them, you may hate me now, but you'll learn to love me in the future. That was my thing. I don't know if I got that from my dad, but I heard it from somebody, and I said, you may hate me now for something I'm making you do, for me disciplining you in whatever shape or form, which was usually writing, right? Right. Your punishment is to copy every page of this encyclopedia for the next 5 pages until I come home, right? But I would tell them, you see the penmanship is phenomenal. But I used to tell them, you may hate me now, but you'll learn to love me. And, years down the road, my son Louis hit me with it, where he was like, Dad, you were right, man. You were trying to teach me right, and I appreciate it. Bro, hit me right here in the corazón, man. Just he caught me off guard with it, but I'm glad that it worked for him. It's working for my younger son, and I hope other parents can maybe use that. This is the same thinking. You may hate me now, but you'll learn to love me because Dad is trying to teach you to do things a certain way to keep you out of trouble, to make sure you get an education, to do good in life, right? To hopefully one day maybe you'll be a parent and you teach your kids, and you build on what I was able to teach you.
1,000%. So we speak to that point, is that normally the natural order of things is that the woman is the nurturer in the household, and the father tends to bring are the ones who are disciplinarians and tends to bring the order within the home. I was listening to Nas. Nas has an excellent album right now as well. And he said, besides my kids, boundaries were my greatest creation. So it's like, fathers do tend to come in and put that structure and that order within the house, whereas the mom is there to nurture. That is the that's kind of like
authority,
just checks and balances. And like I said, I have my kids. I don't have my kids full time. You know what I mean? It's part time for one and a little less for Paul. But then it's almost like when I have them, I got to be like overly. I think my mother or father used to call me Sergeant Slaughter. Remember Sergeant Slaughter from the wrestling?
Wow, man!
Because it was just, and grandparents are like they're not even the same people that I remember growing up. When the grandparents tend to be like I don't know these people when. When I was coming up, the grandfathers, my mother and father, or the grandparents, because they're all of a sudden they're this sweet kid, these sweet to their kids type of thing. So and man, Elijah, especially Elijah and my niece Nevaeh were they're super spoiled when they're around their grandparents because they get whatever they want. And there's no sparing the rod. What is it? Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's going on when the grandparents tend to be around. And then, of course, when he's at his mother, I think the mothers tend to be a lot more nurturing. Not a lot more, but they tend to be very nurturing. So I have to provide that balance when I have them to be like, listen, this is not the way things go. You can't just do this because there's rules, especially, there's rules. And what I've seen happen is, especially now with the kids who don't have that male figure in the house, period. They don't have the male person in the house, period. They go out and they do certain things because they're testing and thinking, especially the males, thinking that they can get away with certain things. And that's not the case. Women tend to get a lot more carte blanche than a man is going to get, because it's just taught. It's just the way society is. Like, when something happens to a woman that you might yell at her, you might hear a woman get cursed at for stepping over the boundaries, but it has to be to the extreme for the most part, generally, before, someone's putting their hands on that woman, generally. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Whereas most people aren't willing to have that boy toe the line as much as the women. And so the world, it's almost like if we're not teaching them within the household how to navigate certain things, the world is going to teach them how to navigate certain things and actually punish them for not doing it. So, it's like either you're going to learn here in this house, or you're going to go out and, say the police have to come and be the ones to discipline you because that's not correct, or that's not the way that you react. You know what I mean? But, I thought that had to be said. And then I've seen it, the extreme cases. An extreme case is like you tend to get a lot of men who end up becoming very withdrawn when they get older because they're brought up a certain kind of way and it's by the mother overly nurtured or I don't know if you can be overly. Yeah, you can be overly nurtured.
Absolutely.
Then they get out in the world and they get punched in the face. I mean, I'm talking about just as something as simple as rejection. You know what I mean? Like you're coming up, you're 20,
absolutely.
You're 17, 18 years old, you get sent off to college, you get rejected, you meet some people who aren't necessarily predators with integrity. Yeah, I'm terming that phrase. Predators with integrity because
yeah.
Right? And then you get smacked and now you retreat back home. Because you weren't ready for that. Like this is like now all of a sudden this is this reality hitting. Like this is this Santa Claus is not real situation.
What?
and when you retreat back in the home and now you don't want to leave mom. And mom, if she's oftentimes mom don't want you to leave either. So mom will have you in the house 30 to 35, 40 years old, especially if there's no male figure in the house or if there's Joe spoke about alpha and beta, but I'm going to talk about some of these beta males. There's a beta male in the house who just goes on whatever mom says to do, and now you got this grown, you got step brothers. I don't know if you saw that movie with
living in the basement.
Yeah, you got step brothers where you got a 35, 40-year-old male that's not gonna leave, and every time he does go to leave, he may leave for a little bit. He gets spanked, because one thing about life is something's going to happen. One thing about life is, as long as if you keep on living, you're going to come up against some obstacles. And so now you're getting spanked, and you're running, and you quickly run back. Oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna pay this rent. You let that go for a little bit. Now you're getting evicted. You're not. There's no fire set up underneath you, because you're like, I can just go back and live with mom or the parents. Now you got dad home now. Dad who tends to be home. Every time you gotta wake up and you're looking at dad in the face, like, I don't want to look at Lou in his face every morning.
There's only room for one king in his household.
I want to go in the refrigerator and not see Lou peeking under his glasses, like looking at me and saying, like, what do you like? What, this is my orange juice. Like, you can't put your name on the orange juice when your father's home. When you live with your I laugh about it.
But what you're saying is true.
This is actually happening, where this is going on, and I've seen it where these kids or these young men, they wake up at whatever time they want to wake up, 11, 12 o'clock. Mom then went off to work at 6, 7 o'clock, still working a job at 6, 7 to 8 o'clock. They get up, they go to the corner, or they go to the corner store. They're chilling out there. Mom is home. They're still out hanging out, doing what they want to do. Come back playing video games, because mom is refuses to let them go. You know what I mean? And so, and this is part of the breakdown, especially here in America, of the traditional family structure, which ends up leading to a lot of these different results. Because when you're not doing anything, what's the saying? An idle mind is the devil's playground, or for a man, it's the devil's workshop. Because now you home thinking of all kinds of crazy, not mischievous, like crazy ways to. And I think social media, even that Charles says, baby boy, right? 1,000%. Like so it's like you're thinking of all these things that aren't necessarily pushing the needle forward for you as a man. You know what I mean? And so what happens? And this happens time over again within our community. And this especially has been in the last, since 1950, 1960s, the last 50 to 60 years of our community is the breakdown, or really in the Western world. You know what I mean? Our community is like the canary in the coal mines, of where we when that canary dies, you better get up out of that coal mine. You know what I mean?
The canary dies, it's too late to get out the coal mine.
Is it too? No.
Yeah, man.
That's true.
You keep the canary in there.
If you want to know about canaries in coal mines,
stops
ask a firefighter, because a firefighter will always send a police officer in there first.
Yeah.
Hey, that ain't no shout out to anybody else. I'm just messing with my boy Lou right there.
I wasn't expecting you to go there, Joe. I thought you were going to talk about coal miners, and how to
Lou, go inside the mine, Lou. Go inside the mine. I want to know if I can save anybody in there.
Let me go in there. I go in there with my flashlight.
Let me read some of these comments. And Charles and Ty, please go to what I put up there. The what is it? StreamYard/Facebook, and log in. That way we can actually see your comments coming up. And that way, Lou, let me put that up again. That way, Lou and Joel can see your comments, because right now I'm the only one that can see your comments. So go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. I think they want you to fill out some information, and then we can actually see it up here on the screen. But up until then, I'll read it. And Charles was like, he's agreeing with Lou. I told my son, I'm whooping you because I love you. And I know he really appreciates it now. And then he was saying that he was talking, a lot of sensitive people running under mom's dress, baby boy. Ty said it's getting worse every day. Okay, I see Charles say I'm in, so we'll be able to see Charles coming up in a little bit. But here's the thing: And this is why, and I started off this conversation talking about the Great Reset, and with this information, because for 40 to 50 years, 60 years, we couldn't share this information, and we actually didn't have the data to show what's exactly going on. Now we know, men out, men, whether or not you're working out with your woman or not, don't ask me, because I'm still figuring it out. But you have to be in your child's life, and the way that happens is you need to fight to do it. It starts and ends with you. And when I'm saying fighting, I'm not saying fighting your wife or excuse me, your child's mother. I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe you do need to go and go and put yourself on child support, pay that child support, and ask for timeshare from the judge. Maybe
there you go. There you go. And this is part of being a real man.
Right. Listen, brother, it starts and ends with us. So if you have to go figure out how to get that $6,000 to pay a lawyer to go get your timeshare, then you need to go do that. If you need to, and I'm actually going to start putting together some resources for brothers, because I read a statistic, or I learned a statistic yesterday that, and it was interesting. I was watching a guy named he's called the lead attorney, and he's been in family law for the last 20 years. Of course, each state is different. But what he's saying is, but he's in Georgia, he's in Atlanta, Georgia. He says when the father comes in, and this is according to Georgia state laws, Florida's a little bit better, because right now we don't get default 50-50 with our in regards to child timeshare. And like I said, in some states are even worse than that. And so in Georgia, he's saying that of the men who go to fight to get their child, only 14% get
custody.
Get some type of timeshare. So he's saying that a man will come to him as a man saying, listen, I want to have some type of timeshare or some type of custody with my child. What do I need to do? And he's saying, listen, I don't want to take your $7,500, but I will take, because he charges $7,500 and $450 an hour thereafter. But I will take, he says, some lawyers will take it, because because we have these outdated family law, things on the books, and more so, not even just the family law, but it's the judges. We have a lot of judges who have a certain mindset on the way that things should be, and they're basing it based upon when it was back in the day where the men were going out working in the 50s and the 60s. The men were mostly the providers. They were the majority providers of the household. So that's why, since they were the majority providers of the household, that's why the women ended up getting custody, because they were the ones making the money. But now, because equality and women seeking that, which is, I think is awesome. But now women are making that money as well. However, they're still getting they're still getting the benefit of the family law. And who's going to fight against that? So now I can make X amount of money. You know what I mean? The women can make about whatever. And Florida's a little bit different, but he's talking about in regards to Georgia. But you got these men paying, you make $40,000, you're paying $500 in child support. And I heard some women saying, well, that doesn't even pay for daycare. Listen, I don't care where you're at. If you make $40,000 and that's before taxes, after taxes, that $500 means something within the household. You know what I mean? And if you can allow your the father to take on some of that responsibility, and this is, once again, this is only for the fathers that want to take on the responsibility. There's some fathers who don't.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on, because
go ahead.
I know you're gonna keep getting deeper and deeper into this thing. Like you mentioned earlier, we get high, we go high, and then we go deep. So I get it. But the thing about it is like being that father starts before the child is born. I mean, we got, man, it is what it is. Let me tell you this. 16 years old I was. 16, maybe 15. This woman sent me a text. Girl. She was a girl. I was 16. She was, 16 or whatever. Sent me a text or called me on the telephone. I don't know. She said, hey, I'm pregnant. I didn't want to be with this girl. There's not one hair on my body wanted to be with her. I didn't have no father in the house. So I took one thought about it. And I went back to my house. I said, hey, Mom. She said, what's going on? I said, hey, listen. I think I got this girl pregnant. She said, well, who is it? And when I told her who it was, she said, oh, okay.
She said,
I don't know if she said that way, but y'all get what I'm saying, man. She was just like, okay, all right. Who is she? Okay, all right. So I put my life on hold right then and there. And that was it. From that moment, I was going to take care of this child. You know, turns out she just wanted me. And she wasn't, I hate to say it, y'all, but I was a playboy, whatever y'all want to call him. But she wasn't my number one girl. So when I found out that she was just, you know, trying to keep me in close, that was the end of that. My whole point is this. Fatherhood starts before the child is born. Men, I know men will be men, and I'm not going to sit here and badmouth a whole bunch of guys when I live the same type of lifestyle that many of these young men are living right now. I live that type of lifestyle, you know. But you got to be ready, or don't do it. Don't go out there playing the game if you don't plan on taking care of the child from the beginning. And not only that, but if you want it, I mean, you got men right here. Mike and Lou right now are saying that they benefited from having the father inside their life. While
the say that. Who said that?
Well, I'm sorry. Lou said that. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. But you did say it's beneficial.
Mike said I didn't say
you did say it was beneficial.
No, I thought you were saying in our personal life. You said Lou benefited from having his father.
No, both of y'all said that it was beneficial having a father.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, and I agree with them, but I didn't have no father inside my life, you know. I had the next best thing, you know, which was an uncle and a mentor here and there, you know. And then my mother did get remarried, and I had a father, you know, and I was grateful for that time being. What I'm getting at, man, is that guys are going out there and they're just getting with these women and they just doing a thing. And at half times they're not even wearing any type of protection nowadays. You know, they have a child. They're not even thinking about the woman. They ain't thinking about the child. You out there, fatherhood starts off with responsibility. You want to be a man, be a man. You know, you be playing with all the women out there, and then you get one of them pregnant and you don't even like the woman. What's going on? That's got to be part of your thought process from the beginning. You know, and that's some of the stuff that we should be teaching these young men nowadays. You know, when you get out there and you have this opportunity, the urges is going to come over you, but you need to start thinking about that ahead of time. You know, that's just the way it is. When my girlfriend had her told me she was pregnant, the first thing that came to my mind is I got to figure out how to get out of these streets, because there was people out there that wanted me dead.
Yeah.
And I was very concerned that somebody was going to come by my house and they were going to shoot up the place. After my child was born, we only had a two bedroom place, and the bed that we had was so large that you only had about a foot to a foot and a half that surrounded the entire bed except for where it laid up against the wall. You couldn't put no bassinet or nothing like that in there. So we got a crib and we put it in the living room. And the living room or the family room faced the street. And I would go to sleep at night and I'd be thinking, man, you know, what if somebody come by and shoot this place up because of something I did? I can't live like this no more. I got to make a change. Men, you got to make a change, you know? You got to change something in your life. And I think maybe Mike said that earlier about the change. There's got to be a change, but it's got to start ahead of time. You got to be thinking about that ahead of time. I got a young man that I work with right now, you know, and he kind of does his own thing in the streets, but at least he puts on a strap every single time he goes out there with these ladies. At least he does that. I'm not condoning it. I'm not promoting it. You know what I mean? But I'm saying
he's being responsible.
Be responsible. That's the first job you got to be as a man. If you can't be responsible enough when you in there getting what you want to get, how you gonna be responsible afterwards? Now, some people, like I did, they'll change and they'll say, "Hey, listen, my kid is here. I got to make a change. I got to do something different. Can't live that life." But right now, we got a whole lot of men out there that they could care less. You know, they still singing that song, "Papa was a Rolling Stone." We can't be like that anymore. And part of that, like you were saying earlier, Mike, about the connotation of alpha male versus beta male, you know, because basically alpha male versus beta male is almost like predator versus prey. It's very close. Alpha male is considered to be a real man. That's what a real man is considered to be, an alpha male. But if you think about going back in the day, I don't know about you all, but back in the day when while I was coming up, alpha males sometimes when they laid down the law and the woman didn't want to get with it, she got hit. She got beat because he had to keep control over their house. Now, I'm not saying that a man needs to be a beta male, because a beta male is considered to be the weak individual who picks up the scraps of the alpha male. We're not living in an animal kingdom.
But we're not far from, like, that's the thing, because we don't live in an animal kingdom and we're living in this first world, but we still have the nature of where we come from. You cannot take away
your passion,
right? But you cannot take away 19. You know what are we in 2021? Up until 1950, 1960, this wasn't a way, and it wasn't necessarily getting beat, but there was a way. The man is still the leader in the house, and the woman. And this,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But I want to get.
I'm talking about on the upper hand. You know, as far as the violence and as far as
an alpha man doesn't necessarily have to be violent.
I agree with that.
It's not necessarily doesn't necessarily be that way. But an alpha man, from my understanding of it, is that an alpha man is in his household. He is a man's man. Now, that doesn't mean that an alpha man is not a thinking man. That doesn't mean that an alpha man is not a violent man. An alpha man can be a thinking man. Like so when we're saying an alpha, when you say an alpha man, I don't really want to get too caught up in it, because this alpha phrase is being so like it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about this alpha thing, and there's not necessarily a set thing about it. But to be a beta male, you can be an alpha male with some beta tendencies. You can be a beta male with some alpha tendencies. But when I'm referring to a beta male, yes, a beta male probably does get a scraps. And what you're going to see also is that when we're talking about this kid situation, is that, and a lot of people don't understand this, is that 60% of men will never father a child in their life. 40% of all of the children that are 100% of all the children come from 40% of the men. That's number one. What tends to happen with these men who are having a lot of children and not necessarily taking care of them, these tend to be what they would call select men, which is the upper 10 to 20% of men who are going out and having a lot of children, not necessarily taking care of them. But that's not, and they overrepresent with the children that are out there that are not being taken care of. And but at this time, I don't want to take anything. Like I said from the beginning, it starts with the man and ends with the man.
Let me build a little bit on that, because I want to introduce a different word for the man. Lou just brought it up. A responsible man. The characteristics of a responsible man: he should make sure that his family is safe. His family is covered. His family is clothed. He should make sure that his children are raised, right? A young man should be raised to be a man to do the exact same thing, to make sure that he either will live his life for his family, his children, or he will give his life for his family and his children, you know? And I believe that these are the basic principles of being that responsible man, you know? Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm listening. I'm a solid. I would call him a solid man. Solid.
I'll go with a solid man.
He's solid, and I like the responsible, solid man.
I like it. And I like how you pointed out, just to take away that whole alpha, because that's where I'm agreeing with you on it. The whole connotation behind alpha male and beta male has almost segregated men into different fields.
Well, here's the thing. Is that we do have a section, certain men who don't necessarily contribute positively and to society, and this is what I would call the non-solid / beta, you know, a beta male.
If it ain't solid, it's soft.
The irresponsible male.
It's
all right, thank you, Luke. We got
you know, let me ask some real quick though. I may get backlash from this. One of the biggest issues that we have, I think, that a lot of these young men go and have kids without themselves being a man yet, is because they depend on the system is going to take care of these children. I'm a believer that. I've seen a lot of it, you know, and I just think that, and I'm not saying that our government should not help certain people. Certain people do need help, but the system is so overwhelmed from people taking advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? And there should be, I don't know how, I don't have the answers. I don't have the solution, you know, how they figure out who do we help, who we don't help. You know what I'm saying? But our system is broken because everyone depends. That I know that if I have this child and I don't have a job, and I know that I'm gonna get a certain amount of money every month because I have this child, what gives me the incentive? Where's my motivation to go out and go get a job?
Living that life.
Well, so, let's talk about that, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. The majority of the people on welfare are not men. They're not men. So then this goes back to the family law. Women are incentivized not to keep a male in the house because when they go to court, 90% of the time, the woman is going to get custody of the child, and that's why I started off saying that us men, we need to go and we need to fight. We need to figure out how to get this, you know, and we need to fight in regard to the way that the laws are going. Because if a woman decides that, listen, I don't necessarily, and here's the issue that's going on, aside from these boys having children, because these boys having children is huge, right? Right. And that haven't fully become men. So I totally agree with you on that point. The next point is that if a woman, just according the second problem with the men, because it starts with the men and ends with the men, is that we don't necessarily know or understand the game that's being played in regards to the ignorance of not understanding the game and what it's going to take, because you can be a man and wanting to be in your child's life and attempting to figure this out, because I think most men will be like, okay, this young lady's pregnant, I'll eat this. You know what I mean? Like, you know, this is not the best way, but I'll make and you've seen it happen before, where they'll say, I'll make an honest woman take responsibility, etc. So now you're there taking responsibility. You know, you may not necessarily have the best job. You may be trying to make things work, but this woman is less apt to deal with your stuff, because we all have issues. None of us are infallible. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I tell people I get sick of myself sometimes. Like, I want to.
I don't get sick of you, Mike. I don't get sick of you.
I get sick of myself, right? So, but you're less likely you're less likely to have to deal with someone if you know that, listen, I can kick him out and still replace him with the system. Because
that's a whole nother
right
issue right there. That's something that we need to be talking about with women right there. Because that's where I wanted to go, brother.
Right.
I wanted to go.
We'll talk about that with women, but since it starts with the man and ends with the man, and I'm solution oriented, because having that conversation with women is a whole different situation.
But I mean, with the man though, that's where I was building.
Right. So with the man, what I'm saying is that you need to understand the game. And Uncle Mike is here to teach you.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because
Uncle Mike is going to be here to teach.
Thinking that these men out here, they can give us a phone call. I didn't want to call Lou out, but I was going to say Mike is here to give you some advice from that point of view, and I'm here as well because we're successful in what we're doing. You know, we're successful. Go ahead.
I can give him Uncle Sam's number 2.
Yeah, no, but that's the whole thing. Uncle Sam, we want to get away from Uncle Sam.
Wait, here, 1,000%.
Giving out so many freebies. Go ahead.
You preaching now, because that's it right there. Like now the consciousness is there, because I'm of the ideal of what happened, because within a family structure, right? We have to figure out. We need to figure it out. And you need to be able to figure it out without Uncle Sam getting involved. Now, here's what goes on with, because once Uncle Sam gets, because the child support industry is a $51 billion industry. $51 billion will be made. These are jobs. If child support went away, you got a whole section of the state, the child support agency. These people no longer have jobs. These people want jobs. And the state wants to be in your business anyways. So but for a woman, all a woman has to do is go down to the courthouse and just and file, like, I want child support, whatever the case may be. This guy could have been living with you. Y'all might not necessarily be married, but he could have been living with you. He could have been doing whatever, he could have been paying. He might have been paying you cash, whatever. But now you want to go down to the courthouse because of, for whatever reason. I don't want to make no assumptions, but the court is going to assign you an attorney. The court is going to assign you a caseworker to help you out with the woman out with her case. Wherefore, as the man, first off, when you go down there, if you're not married, and let's say you didn't sign a birth certificate, and sometimes even if you sign a birth certificate, you have to do a petition for paternity. So now you got to prove that this child is yours, which I think that's the number one law that need to be changed. I think it should be mandatory blood test, DNA testing, period. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you are single having a child. Before they allow a male to put his name on that birth certificate, they should say, cool, we need to swab your mouth real quick. That costs $75, right? That's number one. Number two, because you're going to have to do it anyways later if this person decides that, if you're not married and this person decides that you or them decide that you no longer want to be together, you want to have some type of share within your child. The Lord, and so now you're going to go down, and these lawyers are going to tell you, like, in most cases, they're going to side with the woman. Florida's a little bit different. Florida, they want the best interest of the child. You know what? Because you know what? You could be a stepfather. You could find out that the child is not yours. But if you take care of that child for 2 or 3 years, you're still going to have to pay child support, especially if you were in that child's life and your name, and definitely if your name was on that birth certificate. You still have to pay child support on that. Neither here nor there. That's why I think you need to have that mandatory DNA testing so that you understand what you're getting into. Number two is, for a man, you can fight the case yourself. So you can go in and figure out all these laws, or you're going to have to go and find someone to help you, which is, some type of legal counsel. So it could be an attorney. More than likely, we're going to say an attorney, and they're going to charge you. I've seen the different rates. 20 starting at about $2,500 flat fee, and some people are taking up to $5,000 retainers, and then $300-400 an hour thereafter. And these cases can last 6 months to a year. So now you're getting a lot of young men who don't necessarily have $5,000 to spend, don't have $2,500 to spend. Here's what I tell you, man. You need to find it. You need to find that 20, but before that, because now that we're here, you need to be put on game, and you need to talk with people in regards to it. but don't go sink in that hole, because what happens now is that you're going to be on child support. And if you're not paying your child support, we're talking about license suspensions. We're talking about jail time. We're talking about all kinds of stuff, especially if you let that stuff add up. 2 years go by. I think in 2 years in Florida, you got about 2 years to file for it, or not file for it. You got 2 years. They can go back at least 2 years in back pay, so or back support, whatever that's called. So you got a bunch of young men who are playing a game much similar to the games that we were, not that we, but that people play in the street and don't necessarily know the rules to it. So if you don't know the rules to the game, these things are going to happen to you. The first thing, to Joel's point, is the whole prevention part of it. Don't get involved in it, period. Marry before you carry. But 1,000.
And I know that that's not the most popular thought or belief, but I'm telling you, having been, listen, I gave however many people my testimony that was almost like suicide for me at the age of 16. Yeah. Because this coming from a guy who didn't have a father, my father was gone at the age of 3. And one thing that I learned from him, the greatest thing I learned from him, is that whenever I have a child, I will take care of it. That's what I'll do, because it hurt that bad to me. It taught me such a strong lesson of how important it is for a man to be in their child's life. Me. So I was not going to pass that on to my children. I deeply love my children, and I take care of other children, take care of any child that's around, my wife, she sometimes she gets, listen, let me tell y'all a little story. Can I go off on a little tangent just a little bit? It's kind of
go on, brother. Go on.
It's kind of funny. I'm sitting there on Tri-Rail. Y'all remember when I used to go to service down there in Miami, church service in Miami. So, man, I'm traveling down on the Tri-Rail. I'm going back and forth. And I was coming back this time from Miami. I'm coming back. And I sat upstairs on the Tri-Rail. And I'm sitting there talking to my wife on the telephone. It's like 10:30 or whatever. And we just chat. And so there's this young lady in front of me. She must be about, 14 years old, maybe something like that, right? And so she got like an 8-year-old with her. And there must be about 15 people on this whole section that fits maybe about 100 seats in there, maybe 120 seats in there. There's like 15 people. So you can see from one end of the Tri-Rail all the way to the other. And they sitting right in front of me. That little girl is just on the telephone, leaned up against the side like this, just yapping. She's talking. I'm listening to everything she said. And I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, this little girl, she's sitting over there with her sister. There's 2 sisters. They sitting there talking. And then this is what I see. The 8-year-old girl get up and she starts, shaking her butt and starts popping and stuff. And there's a young man who must be 17, maybe something like that. Looked like he just got out of some type of football practice. And he's sitting over there. He's just sitting just like this. Doesn't even got a cell phone in his hand. How can that be? And he's just sitting there holding his stuff. And this little girl gets in front of him and starts popping. And I'm talking.
And they weren't together. This is just 2 separate. Just
the
a whole
2 little girls,
right?
The 14 or 15-year-old and the 8-year-old, they were sisters. It was obvious.
Okay.
And then the other young man. I mean, he was a young man, like 17 years old. He's sitting over there by himself, minding his own business. He ain't bothering with nobody. And so that little girl gets up and she's over there dropping and popping a foot away from, first she's like 3 or 4 feet, and she keeps inching closer. And I'm talking to my wife, and I'm telling her like I'm telling y'all, I can't believe that this girl's over there doing this. And her sister's just sitting up there on the telephone. I can't take this anymore. I'm not going to be able to take this. My wife's like, no, Joe, don't do that. Don't say nothing. No, just Just leave. I'm like, I can't do that. It's the man in me, and it's the father in me.
That father, right.
I had enough. Man, I put the phone down on the side, and I said, what on earth are you doing? Ain't your parents ever teach you nothing? I said, you need to get yourself and sit down in that seat. That boy doesn't want to have nothing to do with you, and you dancing in front of him. Have you lost your mind? You need to sit down. Sit down right now. And she sat down. There ain't no question about that.
That's that alpha male energy.
Alpha male.
Hey, listen. And the other little girl on the telephone, and I could hear every word she said. Some man, he is sitting there yelling at whoever.
This old man,
and I looked at her and I said, and you need to hang that phone up. I would have called. If I knew who your parents was, I'd talk to him right now. I said, would your mama be all right with you allowing your little sister to, what if he wasn't a good guy and he would take her off with him and you ain't did a thing? You just sitting there on the telephone looking out the window. That's your responsibility. Your parents put y'all on this thing together. You need to take care of her. Don't you know that the rest of the people on that I was about out. Oh, yes, sir. They started clapping.
Yeah.
The people on the train started clapping.
Yeah.
She shut up, and the little girl sat down and ain't get up again. And that was the end of that. You know? So when I'm talking about this stuff for fathers, that's exactly what I mean. You know, and I hear you, Mike, that's the alpha male. Maybe it is, man. I ain't gonna deny nothing. I ain't gonna deny nothing either, you know. But I'm just saying, you know, fathers got to be fathers. And you got to know this before you go in. Because old school, it takes a village to raise a child. You know, nowadays you start talking to someone else's child, parents want to come up to you and like crazy. Like, you know your kid was acting like a fool inside Publix. You know that. You should have said something. As a matter of fact, it was you that they threw the chips at.
I'm listening to what you said, and I think I want to read what Ty said. Ty said, he said, "Look, man, the judge told me if I want to talk, go get a lawyer." This is after he gave the receipts and the documents. But I want to see what he said. Nah, Lou, Ty said he had his first child at 15. She stayed with me since she left the hospital.
God bless her.
Yeah. But there was one thing where Ty said that I wanted to bring up. Essentially, it was this, we're talking about getting worse every day. And like, that's why I don't want to talk to these young men. And I think that is an issue.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the good, like, we're not making this positivity loud enough. Like we're not, and then some of this stuff needs to be shouted from the rooftops. And I remember having a conversation with Beethoven a couple years ago because, you know, we go out in the community and do stuff, but then we see other people do things. We're like, yeah, we don't want to put it on video. We don't want to put it on camera. No, like we need to put it on video. We need to put it on camera. We need to show a different narrative that there are great men out here. There are good, you become a brother. They become great that are here, and we're watching, and we're not going to let this thing go. It's not enough. We can no longer we're not afforded the opportunity to live in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Like that. First off, that's against the natural law of nature. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Nothing happens when you're silent. You know what I mean? And of course, Lou, I want to take you to church real quick.
Man, come on,
but not necessarily the church, because Joel got it. But this is what the so-called enemy wants this stuff to be silent, because when it's silent, that's when all these things start happening. You know, if you ever noticed, like, and then you find out that something like, you know, when somebody becomes very depressed. What happens when you get depressed? You start to become withdrawn and you become silent. And then that's when this starts happening in your mind, and this is what's happening on a greater scale within society, is that we have become silent, and we've allowed a lot of things to happen because, you know what, hey, and don't get me wrong, you do need to take care of your household and have an overflow. Take care of your household and have an overflow. Don't go out there with nothing and don't have an overflow in your household. Take care of your household, have an overflow, but that overflow needs to be out there in the community. You have to get out there in the community. They have to see you, right? And these are some of the things that we've been doing for a long time. Lou had a partner, Scolo, who used to come to the center and took a couple kids underneath his wing. And for Scolo to come, an Italian, Italian cop coming down to the Youth Empowerment Center, in the middle of in the so-called hood in Pleasant City, to take these kids out to games. Like, these kids came looking forward to seeing it. And these two kids, I would consider, they were bred for the streets, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, just their whole mannerism. They had fully taken on that character at 10 and 11 years old. Like, after working with kids for a little while, you could kind of see it.
Survival mode.
Yeah, you'd be like, this kid is in. He's on his trajectory. Yeah, right. He's headed in a trajectory. But that trajectory gets changed when you have a good person like Scolo, a good person like Lou, a good person like Joel, a good person like Mike, a good person like Beethoven, Charlie Brown, Tyron, who's on this, who's out there, who come in and say, listen, this is what it looks like to be a man and to lead you in this world. And we're gonna show you something that's gonna make you, because it's greater on this side, folks. For these young men, it's greater on this side. It may seem, you may seem like you got the glitz and the glamour, but when you look at these numbers, the best dope boys, and I tend to be a hood historian. The legend historian,
man. Don't cut yourself short.
No. I'm saying, but I definitely specialize in some hood stuff. Some of this hood stuff. Some of the most legendary players of the game had like a 3 to 5 year run, if that. And then after that, you're doing 20 years in prison, or you're dead. 3 years before Lou and them say, okay, that's
my boy.
We don't see you too many times.
My boy.
Remember, Nas had in that "If I Rule the World" song, he said, what he got to do to make $500,000 without the FBI catching feelings? Remember what he said that? Yeah, it's some real stuff. Like, what I got to make only $500,000 when you can take all of that. If you can make $500,000 in the streets, you can go open up a business and make millions, because you don't got to worry about somebody, the retribution in the streets. You don't got to worry. Because you got to be, you got to be smart, because the smart ones really don't make it. The smart ones are in and out of jail. The smart ones aren't doing $500,000. You know what I mean? The smart ones are hustling for re-up money, kind of deal. You know what I mean? I don't want to go too far into it, but that's essentially it. But it takes Lou, it takes Joel, it takes us, especially now that where we're at in lives, because what we don't understand about, and here it is for you, man. You take your time, because most men don't reach their financial stride until they're 45. Like 45 is when you really, like, most men start making their money. 45 is when the world becomes your oyster. 45 is when you start to reap the benefits of all the seeds that you've been sowing. Tend to be. Like, it's not when you're 20, it's not when you're 25, it's not when you're 30. You're still learning yourself. Sure. Now we all could have made some decent money, like, but if you make it to 45 and you've been sowing those seeds, you have this experience, you have this knowledge, you're doing it the right way, and then you can pick and choose whatever it is that you want to do. So don't be so us coming at this point in time, like, listen, don't be in a rush to grow up. Don't be in a rush to grow up. And I think that's one of the things that happens, because one of the things that happened is that, man, when I hit 25, and I'm trying to think, because one of my best friends was killed in Revere Beach, Rock. I think Rock was 31. And of course, my sisters passed when I was like 19, 20. So there was always this thought of death. And sometimes when you're in the hood, you see that a lot, right? You're gonna see death, and you're gonna see a lot of negative things a lot. So we often, and I remember Tupac used to talk about it, like you hit 25, you're a legend, because a lot of young boys don't see it to be 25.
I was glad they hit 18.
Yeah. So you get there, and you're like, man, because I remember even before I had my first son, when Rock got killed, that was December 17. Like, I'm thinking about my mortality. Like, man, my two sisters done died. I think my grandfather, my grandfather died in 2000. My two sisters died in 2004. Okay, I took that. 2008, my grandfather died, which was probably the number one male influence in my life. And then, my best friend, who's 31, he dies at I think Rock was 30 or 31. So you get this, you think like, man, how long am I going to live? This you start to think this type of thing. And so now you're like, man, I guess I have a child. What am I going to leave behind? Like when I leave, is anybody going to remember? What am I going to be remembered by? That kind of thing. So that may kind of influence, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, but it can influence a person thinking of their mortality. Like, I might as well live this life till I'm 20, because I don't know if I'm going to make it till I'm 25. But the point of the matter is, it takes us a little bit more seasoned men. We don't know everything that's going on in the street. I can tell you that. I'm so far removed from it.
Yes,
right. But we still have a testimony to give to these young men by just saying, like, look, we all can. This is what you have to look forward to. You know what I mean? But if you start sowing these seeds now, because you don't want to be 40. You don't want to, okay, so say you don't start sowing these seeds. Then you might be end up 40. And I know we've all driven back, we may have went back to the spot that we kind of grew up in, and we see those people that we went to high school with or we used to hang out with back in the day, and they still in the same spot.
Same spot, yeah.
They still on the,
some of them
50-50, yeah.
Daisies up, man. Some of them pushing daisies. But go ahead, Lou. You want to say something?
I'm sorry, Joe. I was just gonna pick it back off of Mike, and I was just gonna say, like, sometimes when you're surrounded by death a little bit more than others.
Yeah, that's what Charlie Brown is saying. Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? You can let it succumb you to negativity stuff. Where you open the doors to negative stuff. But that's when you need great friends like Joe, right, and you, Mike, and Beethoven and Charles, guys like that from our brotherhood, to kind of bring you back, reel you in, and say, hey, listen, it's life. It can happen, but we're here for you. But, that was a good point that you brought up. Again, you have some unfortunate incidents, some tragic incidents occur in your life. You just can't let it succumb you to now open up the doors to negative. Because I'm telling you, it almost happened to me, Mike, and I'm sure you're in the same boat that I was in, and Joe, you kind of been there too. So, we got to have positive influences, positive friends. You know what I'm saying? What's that saying? Tell me who you hanging with, and I'll tell you who you are, or something of that nature.
Right. Average the first 5. To your point, but that's what I'm saying. We have to be the positive influences and role models in these kids, in these young men's lives. You know what I mean? Whatever, because once again, it starts and ends with the man, and we have to be around us as a positive influence, even if it's just as much as this. Like just as much as this, like we don't have to sit necessarily, reach each and every kid, but because we have these platforms, we need to further promote this positive energy, this positive thing, saying like, listen, you all in the hood, take a chance to listen to us. You, especially as young men, because that's who I want to speak to. You have the rest of your life to look forward to, but you need to start planting these seeds now, because the time's going to go by regardless. You know what I mean? So you want to at least start heading in that right direction, and we're the ones that can change that trajectory.
I tell you what, there, Mike, because you was bringing up something about planting seeds, and a little while ago you mentioned something else, something that I'm doing with my little boy. I don't know if you did this with yours, or Mike, if you're doing that with yours, but I talk to my little boy about being a dad, about being a father. I talk to him. I tell him, I say, man, you know, and you all probably have said this or do say this. Say, hey, listen, you know, one day you want to have a child. You have a little boy, and he's going to try you just like you try me. You know, he's going to do the exact same thing. And you're going to have to turn around and you have to tell him. You have to straighten him out. You have to get him together. This is the reason why I'm doing what I do with you right now, because I need you to understand these things. And then I also talk to him about what it is to be inside of a relationship like this, you know, what it is to treat his mother a certain way and what it is for me to treat his mother a certain way, you know, because and then even with that, you know, I'm married to a fiery woman, you know.
What's going on, Kathy? We love you.
Yeah, we love her. I appreciate that. She know I love her too.
We love you.
She's fiery and she's not afraid. You know, she takes a lot after her father too, so she's not afraid to speak her mind. You know, so I have to move with her on that level because that's where she is, and I don't believe in getting into a relationship and changing somebody. Now I can't say that's how I've always been. When I first got in a relationship, I kind of did feel like I could change a little something inside of my wife. Why not? You know, but I've grown to understand it's better just to let people be who they are, because that's who I am. And if you don't like who I am, hey, listen.
That's okay.
That's right. You can see the door. I got mine. I'm good with me. So that's one of the things that what I'm getting at with that is and you all will see I've alluded to this a few times in this conversation. I've gone away from the children and I've gone back to the woman, because a lot of this stuff that is going on with fathers has something, and the children, how they perceive their fathers, has something to deal with how that father and that mother, or that father and that woman, are getting along. It's a big deal. You know, and they're gleaning that stuff. Children are always learning. One of my buddies, he'll say, children are just like computers. They just gonna do what you put into them. You know, you programming them every single day, and whatever you put into them, that's what they're gonna end up eventually being. So, for a lot of these men out there, you know, that responsibility starting up way early, it makes a difference. Now, post, you know, baby born and stuff like that. Yeah, you know, you got Lou here, you got Mike here, you got me here, and hey, available. You want to set up something out there? You know, you got Mike on his live stream and his Facebook. Put it inside that chat and say, hey, we want y'all to come out to so and such and such. We'll be there. Show up. Come on out there and talk with people and give them some more real life experiences. Because what I'm saying is that we've been doing this and we've gone through different types of situations and we've made it, you know, and are still making it, you know. And when it comes down to these relationships with these young women, a lot of these times, these young men, these young women, they get together. Now, who'd you say that was, Tay or
Ty?
Ty. I like that guy right there. Do I know him?
Yeah. He probably came to Ty. We used to work at the center. He probably
Ty.
He probably was the shortest one.
Yeah, I like him. 15 years old. That man, he manned up at 15 years old. I like to meet his dad. You know what I'm saying? I like to meet his dad, because I know if my son wants to get out there and he wants to do his thing at the age of 15 and he tries not to take care of that child, he gonna have a hard time in this house. Y'all, hey Lou, you might as well come on over in the blues, buddy. Come on over in the blues, because if he dare try to not take care of that child, it's not gonna be nice.
Fella, to Joe's point, fellas, it's game time. If you decide one thing about a man, you need to sleep in the bed that you lay in.
Yes.
It's fine. You can feel sorry for yourself. Lord knows it's been time when I sat down and I felt sorry for myself. And you can throw yourself a little pity party. Throw yourself a little pity party.
Shaking in bed, Mike. on a Friday night.
Right? Throw yourself a little pity party. I'm with you. I throw myself pity parties from time to time, but then you need to lace them boots up and get to work and figure it out. Lace your boots up, get to work and figure it out. Because at that point in time, as far as I'm concerned, you have become a man. You understand what I mean? Like you have become, or you decide if this is what we're telling you prevention. I'm telling you, listen to me. Listen to your Uncle Mike.
Uncle Mike, come on.
I'm telling you to marry before you carry. Listen to me. Don't walk down the same path that I walked down. But that's, it is what it is. One thing about Uncle Mike is going to lace up his boots.
You're a good dad,
right? And put it on, and I'm telling you, and make these sacrifices. One thing that's going to prove you men above men is when you can make those sacrifices. I cannot go hang out on this trip. I gotta go. I gotta be here. I need to make it back by 4 or 5 o'clock because I need to be there to make sure my son is whatever. Because Lord, let it be known, I had the best help with my mother. My mother would have adopted my son no, let me not say that. She wouldn't have adopted my son. Because she for darn sure was like, oh, this is a way I could keep. I know where he's at right now. And then one thing about that young lady was like, she's like, and sometimes his mother would drop him off at my mom's house. I get a phone call from my mom, and I didn't know this was going on. And she'd be like, your son is here. and what does that mean? You need to get over here. You need to get over here. It wasn't even my day. It wasn't my day. But I get that phone call, your son is here. And I hang up the phone, I throw my pity party. Why she had to take the child? Nobody told me.
Kryptonite, man.
But it is what it is because you got to because you have to do what it is that you have to do. You know what I mean? I'm not the perfect father. You know what I mean? Elijah is gonna tell you that. He's gonna say
today, baby, but he ain't gonna say that right. In 10, 15, 20 years.
But either way, just as a man, I'm infallible, right? So I'm not gonna make the best decisions. I'm gonna make the best decision that I think at the time. And sometimes my temper may get ahead of me. I may yell when there was no need to yell. You understand what I mean? Because of whatever it is, what it is. But then you got to get back on that horse because I'm not perfect, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect father. I'm just attempting to be the best father I can be.
Absolutely.
Lace your boots up, people, man. Lace your boots up and take care of these kids. And they want you in their life. And they need you and if they don't want you, you know what I mean? Because sometimes they can. I was listening to a conversation with a daughter telling her father, like, what do you want? She on the phone and he's like, I'm just calling to see how you do it. What do you want? I don't want to talk to you, that type of thing. She's a child, man. This is learned behavior. Eat it. Be the man. Be the best man that you could be because you're going to have to take the high road. Sacrifice your ego. Sacrifice them nights of going out and do what you got to do. Charlie Brown said, man up.
That's it. And right there, what you're saying there, Mike, this is the reason why we say that statement one more time. Marry before you carry.
Marry before you carry.
This is the reason why. Listen, brothers. I know a lot of brothers don't want to hear nothing about no marriage or anything like that. But man, playing the field and you end up with something that you shouldn't have ended up with is trouble. That's all it is. It's just trouble. And some of these things come because they was trouble from the beginning. Maybe you was looking for trouble because you like trouble. I was talking to this one guy, and he was looking at this girl, and the girl was she just showed herself to be a certain type of girl. Just a certain type of girl. That's the way she showed herself to be. And he said,
text me what kind of girl she was so I can tell everybody else. I'm saying.
He was a certain type of girl, and he said, I said, what you do? I said, what, man, what's going on? He said, she's trouble, man. I said, yeah, I believe you're right. He said, That's just the type of girl I like. I said, man, and he was married. You know, now he didn't go out there messing with her or nothing like that, but he said, boy, that's the type of one get me wrapped up and messed up, you know.
Charlie Brown said, I wish somebody would have told me to marry before I carry. And he also asked me, Joe, he said, what kind of certain girl you have? Charlie, he said,
you know what I'm talking about, Charlie Brown.
She was trouble. Listen, I don't accept brothers, if you're younger, if you're whatever age is, listen to us, man. Yeah, you know what I mean, and accept the nature of it, of what's going on. I know we're in the 21st century. We think that and this is not because I want to go back to Joe's comment in regards to the animal nature, right? Now, I don't want to say it that it's the animal nature, but let's go back to like the biblical nature of it.
There we go.
And that's what we need to accept it for. And that's why, and you got to love Joel, because Joel's able to break down the Bible and communicate it so succinctly and clarifying it. Because when you go back to, and I was doing a deep dive, just
Abraham,
Adam and Eve, and that type of thing. Well,
hold on. When you go back to Adam messed up with his wife.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was this is my first point. Before we get to the child, brothers, you got to check out the woman.
Check out the woman.
You check her out. Check her mama out, her daddy out, her grandmama, her granddaddy. Because if they act a certain way, there's a good chance that the ones that raised her, that they have planted them seeds inside of her. And even if you don't see it today, you will see it tomorrow or next year. And these men, they going out, they say, I want to go ahead and I want to have them move on in the house with me. I don't want to get all deep into this thing, because they doing a whole lot of things and they think it's going to make a difference. But it's not making a difference, because sometimes people, women and men, can play the favorite for as long as it takes until they are tired. And sometimes they will play that thing until they get what they want. What happened in the Garden of Eden is the woman sat down with Satan and decided that he had a better plan than the one that she was married to. And this is happening all the time.
Brother, that's it. You know what I was always wondering? I said, where was Adam when this conversation was taking place?
Well, the Bible says when she decided to eat the fruit, that she gave it to her husband who was with her.
So he was there while this man was having
at the point in time when it was time to eat the fruit.
I know when he was
with her, you know. And I mean, and the thing about it is Adam, and see, because listen.
Charlie Brown said she may have been good trouble. Ain't no good trouble, Charlie.
No. That ain't the good trouble that we're looking for, Charlie Brown.
Hey, Charles messing up the whole message.
That ain't the good trouble.
I like it. Because now this gives you a time to have that conversation about it. Because there ain't no good trouble. It's an oxymoron. It's like the lesser evil. Ain't no such thing. I ain't never heard of the lesser evil. It's evil or it's not. Which one is it? But go ahead, brother. You were saying
well, in that instance, right there wasn't really anywhere for Adam to be. I mean, think about it, because we're talking about 5 days have already passed, and I don't know what that 5 days really represented. I'm not going to get into a deep biblical study, because in one scripture it says a day is like 1,000 years, and in 1 day, and so a day could have been whatever it was in that time. However, in 6 days, on the 6th day, God had created this woman, put a deep sleep on Adam, and then took a rib out of his side, and then he claved Eve into this being and brought her to Adam. He had surgery, and there's still even more in that we won't be able to discuss right now. But in that, Adam's desire was piqued because this is the 6th day. And so in all 5 other days, we had other stuff that was being created and born and brought to life. And Adam had noticed that every single thing in nature had a mate except for him. His mate was God. If you look later on inside the scriptures, the Bible will say things like God is married to the backslider, So man was actually the first wife, if you will, of God. Man was the first woman because woman was taken out of man. Man gave the first birth ever. Man gave the first birth because woman was brought out of man. And now, because of what happened in the garden, woman produces man in travail. That's what's happened because of her willingness to be deceived by somebody that was not a part of her hierarchy or a part of her family. She went outside of the family and she decided she was going to go ahead and listen to this. And then she also decided she's going to go back to the one who gave birth to her. That's like my son coming up and telling me that I need to do X, Y, Z, and I do it because he thinks that that's the right thing to do. No, man. I was here before you. I don't care how old you are. I got all your years and mine.
Charlie Brown said, was Eve good trouble?
We're going to go there. So in the end, Eve was still brought about a lot of things. My whole point is that because man failed to be that responsible, solid man at that very moment, because Adam failed to do that, his wife was able to trick him into doing something that he should not have done.
So we can get into the leadership role at some point in time. I don't know if we want to get into it now. We went a good 2 hours strong.
Let me just finish that.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Connected, because this right here is where it starts. Before the child is born, you got to get that together. If you don't get that together, then you stand. It's like playing craps with your life.
Yep.
The life of the missus or the child. You're playing craps.
Yep.
Because listen, I lived at one point in time in a place where the mother and the father were crack addicts. The daughter, she slept with anything and everything around the block. The son had no clue on how to be a man or anything. So he was just wild out everywhere. This is where some of our society is still like this. And I know I love that Mike spoke to some of the greater good amongst our people, or people at large, and earlier on in this podcast. But like I said, I grew up in a different place, in a different way, and the things that I saw affected me. And so I have a relationship that I'm able to speak about with those types of things. When it comes down to raising your child, you need to start with who you get with. When it comes to raising your child, you need to start with who you get with. Like Mike said, you need to marry before you carry.
Yep.
Before you marry, you need to check who you with.
You got to vet. Do the proper vetting. Joe spoke on it earlier, and I'm right there with him. Check out the mother. Check out the father. If the father's not in their life, really, you go check him out. Go have that conversation and ask him why the father. I say that to people who are thinking even about being stepfathers, because you're gonna hear a lot of stuff about you. If you want to become a stepfather now, and you're gonna marry or you're gonna deal with a woman who has children, go talk to the daddy of the children. Have that conversation. And also, so you need to have that conversation with the father of the children. Figure out what's going on. That's number one. Number two is really, really look at the mother. really, and the saying goes, love is blind. So you start to let little things slide, etc., etc. You're gonna regret it later on. Listen to Uncle Mike.
Uncle Mike's hot sauce.
Listen to Uncle Mike. I'm trying to. Charlie Brown wants to comment. Hopefully, and I've sent the link.
What did he say this time?
He said, man, I wish I could comment. That was the last thing. After he said good trouble, I said, now you're trolling. But he said he wish he could comment. So I haven't seen him in here. But yeah, 1000%, man, Joe. I'm in agreement with all of that. You hear a lot of this stuff, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said again. People, y'all got some. If you're working at some with young men, like Joel said, please, anything you want us to talk to your son. We will have these conversations because a lot of these conversations need to be had, and we're not. I've seen some people who some wolves in sheep's clothing that's out here just to, do their thing, and I think that's terrible as well. But you want some positive conversations with real men, because I consider each and every one of these men on this broadcast real men. Just let us know. Let us know. I don't see Charlie Brown. Anything else, Joe?
Tell Charlie Brown the only good trouble I know about is by John Lewis.
What's that? The book?
The politician. He's the only one I know that said get in good trouble that made sense. I don't know about any other type of good trouble. Oh man. Yeah.
What about you, Lou? Any final comments?
No, I think you guys summed it up at the end where you said, you got to know that the mom's got to do her part just as much as the dad part. You know what I'm saying? And two, it takes two to tangle, and two to raise, to raise a child. Unfortunately, sometimes maybe it's not two, but if you have two parents there, they both have to put their certain percentage in and make sure that the child is educated and instructed on the do's and don'ts of life. Because like we said before, there ain't no book on it, right? There's no book. So we learn from each other. I learn from Joe, learn from Mike, learn from other people, Beethoven, and I learned from my parents. You know what I mean? From how they taught me how to be a man and how to correct it. My kids got lucky. They didn't get the wrath of God of the right hand, And I meant to mention that before because when you're talking about your grandma, Mike, that you said she was the most loving person in the world. But I don't think you mentioned that she ever. I was going to ask you, did she ever put a little something to the backside?
With my mom?
No, your grandma. I think you were talking about your grandma, maybe.
No, definitely my mom. I mean, yeah, I
know your mom was.
Oh yeah, my mom definitely did not spare the rod.
I saw when that didn't work for me. That's when I went and put the pen to paper.
Yeah.
Grabbed an encyclopedia, but no, you guys summed it up, man.
Good. Joe, any parting words?
I think this was a good first start off, man. I'm glad that we had this. I think I might have sent you something right there. But listen, just have all the people, maybe you can send out a link to yourself, or that might not be the right link, but if they want to get with us, Mike, just put something out there so that people can get with us. Like I said, we're willing to come out there and speak if y'all want to talk, whatever. But anyway, I love it. Love y'all, brothers, and for the brothers, and if there was any other sisters out there that was on the live stream, we're grateful for you. Lou, love you, man.
Thank you both for the invite, because I was really gonna sit on the backside and I was dying to listen, and I had just text Mike like, "Yo, send me a link to your podcast tonight so I can listen." And then you threw me on, so I appreciate that. I just I'm glad I was able to put a little bit input.
Last time you said I was capping. Last time you said I wasn't trying to let you on the show, so I said let me send you.
Yeah, he had me blocked. I think he had me blocked.
Listen, check out Lou's show. What's next?
What's next?
I'm a 3-time guest.
I know he's not gonna get on.
I'm a
this thing right
3-time
now.
guest.
And talk about he been on there 3 times, Blue.
Listen,
Blue.
I told Mike I needed him. It was a last minute thing, and I needed a dry run.
yeah, didn't I say it?
It was a
Didn't
dry run.
Listen,
So,
dry run or not, pause. Plenty of gems that were dropped on that show. A lot of information that we went. A lot of information. We went through a lot of information on that show. We went through a lot of information. I think we did about an hour, maybe hour and 15 minutes. Charles Brown said, "Lou, what about me?" So he wants to be on the show. So hit Charles up. Charlie Brown.
I'm gonna hit the goat.
Yeah. So yeah, but a lot of information. So what's next? It's on YouTube. Go subscribe, people. It's free. Subscribing is free. So subscribe to Lou's podcast on YouTube. He always has excellent guests. Lou's an excellent interviewer. I'm glad this time I took the shine off of myself and I put it back on Lou for him to answer certain questions. But he's an excellent interviewer. Episodes 1 through what are we on? 8 or 9.
I'm going on 10 now.
10. So he's on episode 10. Go check out those podcasts. Excellent podcast. As for me, listen. Men, for us, it starts and ends with us. So we can blame, whatever, but the society, we can blame government. We need to understand the rules to this game, and we need to play it accordingly. This is chess. It's not checkers. Understand? So you got to put yourself in position and hopefully put yourself in the best position. That way you have the most options. So for me, I think that's the end of what I have to say. I think Joel is putting something in here. Like I guess, and what I'll do is I'll go back and we can go back and edit and put it in the descriptions. I love everybody that checked in. Ty, Charlie Brown, thanks for the laughs because you're funny as what. I got to figure out how I get these comments on here, man. I appreciate you all. Let me see. I think Joel. Oh, here, Joel. I can put that on now.
No, you guys got something really good going, man. Keep it going because. You know what I'm saying? I remember from the first get together you did, the first live stream you did, to where you at now, man. You guys are rolling. So, Mike,
next time is next week is on you now.
Hey, Mike, I'll see you next week.
All right. Next time is you. I'm coming for you.
Yeah. I like
it. Anyways, love you guys, man. So I'm gonna end this broadcast. Love you, Charlie Brown. Love you all.
All right, you guys be safe, man.